It says I'm going live. I'll start this show a little bit differently today. Tony Caravan with you. Happy Monday. Let's be happy. Okay? But at the same time,
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
check this out. High Rock Flux. Oh, that's my YouTube channel name. This is TonyCaravanLive.com. You could also find me, TonyCaravanLive.locals.com on Locals, where I think I might be just doing most of my work from now on. Can you see that? Can you read that? Tried to make it as big as possible. Let me read it to you. As if somebody put these people in charge, right? Our team has reviewed your content, and unfortunately, we think it violates our medical misinformation policy. We've removed the content from YouTube. The morning show with Tony Caravan Live, 3/9/21. This is like over a month ago. Why'd you wait? I just quickly reviewed the thing. I didn't even see anything in there. We know this must be disappointing, blah, blah, blah. YouTube doesn't allow claims about and the thing they put in your arm that contradict expert consensus from local health authorities or the World Health Organization. If you do it again, you get a strike, and we're not going to let you broadcast live for a week. And if you get a couple strikes, 3 strikes, you're out. Now, what's this thing? Let me get rid of that. 3 strikes, you're out. Not only is this, under other normal circumstances, this would be childish, okay? But under the idea and the guise that these are the gatekeepers of information in the US of A and around the world, this is preposterous. This is preposterous. Look at the little whistle and the guy holding a thing, and then in the end, there's some kind of I guess that's the strike. The little whistle for the morons. We want to provide a safe, what do they say? YouTube is a safe place for all. You got to be kidding me. Oh, man, you've got to be freaking kidding me. Yeah, I know. You agree with me? You bet. You bet. You bet. These crazy people, man. I'll tell you, it is ridiculous.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
I'm not. I'm not.
So you found us.
What is it trying to tell us?
No strings, no catch. You own everything.
Now stay tuned to Rock Flux.
I think all 3 of yous popped your stoppers.
Did you accidentally inject yourself with some kind of psychotropic agent?
Yeah, well, I think they did, and I think that's what they do. A bunch of kids running these companies. I'm going to read what I wrote in my introduction here. One has to ask the obvious question, staring us all in the face. Why are the powers that be, aka Big Tech, Big Pharma et al., spending billions on censorship, banning, and manipulating the free flow of truthful information, in quotation or in parenthetically, instead of using their insanely large staffs and resources to actually improve the quality of people's lives, rather than just point fingers, jabber about it, and point fingers at those who question their methods and means and authority, actually. And how about we'll change point fingers to crucify? Crucify those who dare to question their method and means and authority. That's a big question that needs to be answered. Right? It's a big question. Everything you know is wrong. You don't know what you don't know. It's my walrus tooth from Antarctica. You know, you kids working over in Silicon Valley and Pittsburgh, excuse me, all these other Google locations, your little safe spaces, right? Petting your little precious. Oh, me precious, me precious. Oh, me precious. Don't take away me precious. Or when you're in high school, the teacher says you can't have to put your cell phone in the basket. You can't use it during a test. Oh no. Mommy. That's like a 40-year-old. Mommy. He said a word. He questioned that. What kind of world is it where you can't question something? And when you can't question something, we're drinking Diet Dr. Bob's soda today. All right. It's in a big volume. So I'm hoping, by the law of physics, which I tend to know more about than the Google Deep Mind and Google, all those people who work at Alphabet do. They're morons. I've done more and traveled more places than every single one of their employees. Same with the Amazon. Every single one. I came up with a better search than Google. And that's why they don't monetize me. Yeah, you guys are really, really funny.
I think all three of you popped your stoppers.
All three of you. Google, Facebook, right? Who's the third one? Think about it. Google, Facebook, not Twitter. Twitter's insignificant. Twitter's a joke. I don't know why people even stay on Twitter. Google, Facebook, Amazon.
I think all three of you popped your stoppers.
Tony Caravan.
You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, and not what you don't.
Yeah, it's just what you need and not what you don't. The morning show with Tony Caravan. If you're watching this live, what you want to do is bookmark, go to that Tony Caravan livelocals.com. Excuse me. I'll be doing videos from there. Probably
Same time, same station.
okay, but that's just the way it's going to be, because right now, I mean, I've basically had it. I've had it.
Can we use the network to transmit a message?
No, we can't use the message to transmit. Forget it. It's all out of control.
Good thing that I don't have dangerous brain powers, or right now you'd be in 1,000 little pieces.
But I'm a pacifist. I mean, it's human nature to get mad. It's one of those things. Pay no attention to the side of my face. I'm sorry for looking away from you. You got to forgive me. I just wanted to play this one or two more times.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
You know, that movie was so far ahead of its time. I really recommend you watch Network, Patty Chayefsky. I mean, he nailed it. He nailed it in the 60s. He nailed it 60 years ago. You know, almost 60 years ago.
Let's get ready to rumble!
I am your main connection to the switchboard of souls. I'm the magic man.
Yeah, that's true.
Rock Flux Live.
Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music.
Well, let's hear it.
Insert your station call letters here.
Here we
Go.
I gotta go.
You're clear to go. Hey, don't think this sounds really cool. Let's roll. Go.
Of course, you can't play music and that kind of stuff because they don't pay their royalties for you to play music on your live broadcast or your things. It's only on their music thing. I know I'm coming off as like kind of a weirdo, but whatever.
Let's get this show on the road.
There's a girl with a cigarette showing some cleavage, and it says agitprop on the title card today, assuming that that's there. And that's the theme of today's show, agitprop, because that's really what all this is, right? You know, it's all propaganda. And, you know, and that word originated, you know, referring to communist propaganda, right? That's like, those were before you had the thing about, you know, words like, you know, some people attribute the coining of the phrase conspiracy theory to the CIA. Whether or not that's true or not, who knows, right? But, you know, it was, you know, it used to be communist propaganda too. Now it's like American propaganda. The former United States of America, right? So it's no longer the weekend, but I'll take a quick gander, as they say, at the weather. It's 66 degrees here in the former United States, the mid-Atlantic portion where I dwell. And it's going to be cloudy. And probably they say it's a 70% chance of rain, which means hopefully some of that cloth I put down up in my attic is going to keep the water from dripping into my upstairs hallway. 55 degrees for the high, 46 for the low. Tomorrow, maybe some sun and 64, 46 at night. Wednesday, 39. And if it says 39, that means it could be freezing and there could be frost. Thursday, 39 overnight, could be frost. Friday, 37, it's dropping, definitely frost. My planting outside, gone. So yeah, I'm not in a good mood today, you know, really.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
But I don't know. We got to pull through it. So everything you know is wrong. And what you don't know, you don't know. You know, get that through your head, through your noggin somehow. Just my little, you know, there's an inconsistency about things. Like up here, if I could do this, I'm connected to wires, so that's why I'm always cautious when I move around. This is the Tony Caravan box set. You haven't seen that. Codex. And of course, all the great solar stuff. Take a little look back there. Isn't that cool? I might have to leave for ice cubes at some point again.
In Somerset counties.
Have you bought your weather radio yet? Have you gotten your Jackery from Great Solar Stuff yet? And if you haven't, why haven't you? The inevitability of power failures and such the like. What does the P on my hat stand for? Pirates? Pottsville? Poughkeepsie? You know, that's the question. That's a really big question.
Why are you telling us this?
Well, let's get into it. So, you know, take these $1 billion, this corporatocracy I talk about, all right, constantly. And yeah, you know, I think I am going to just go back to production videos. I mean, I like this live thing, but I'm not going to play games with some juveniles running a corporation like Alphabet, you know. You know what I mean? It's time that, you know, you just look away from the Peter Pan culture and say, you know what, grow up. You know, we don't need you. You're unnecessary. You know, you're so ignorant, right? You know, it's like schools like MIT, right? And even the Ivy League schools. You got all these people, and what are they wasting their time on? He said something, he said this, right? Social justice issues? Social justice? Sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Grow up. Grow up. Do your job. Or do you know how to do your job? Or do you just want to show off your brown paper covered Starbucks coffee thing that you could buy right on the campus? And I don't mean the school campus. I mean your work campus. You know what I'm drinking in the morning show mug? Diet Dr. Bob's from Walmart or some weird place like that. Friend of mine brought me down a 2-liter bottle. I think she paid 79 cents for it. You clowns. The Peter Pan culture. So they're going to worry about, you know, these organizations and these people who lie for a living. And they're going to use that as their rationale for censorship banning or 3 strikes and you're out. Grow up. Get a life. These organizations that you are like propping up are like proven to be liars and hypocrites. Right? And you know, and so what? And even if they were legitimate, which they're not, okay? What's the problem? Isn't the whole purpose of communications, of vlogging, to express an opinion? You know, first they were trying to say, you know, first it was, well, that was hate. Somebody used hate speech, right? Well, I don't use that. I've looked at their terms of service. You know, they must sneak in these things constantly. Like they want to go after somebody like, right? And so then they sneak in a sentence or something. You don't know it. This whole idea, the whole thing, if the ACLU or if the courts weren't all politicized, all of this stuff could be cleaned up in in a few simple, actually, like I said the other day, the FCC could basically just come out and do a press conference and just say this, and say enough is enough. You guys are wrong. You're in violation of everything. Your terms of service don't apply. All right. Censorship. You are a media company. If you're going to control the flow of information, right? Practice censorship, violate the First Amendment, okay, and have editorial content, all right, implied or otherwise, by controlling the flow of information and by using your various resources to to push a political social agenda. You're in violation of terms of service. That's the other clip I should have gotten. That one with Jack Nicholson in the court or whoever it was. No, you're out of order. Right? You're out of order. This thing doesn't even have to go to court, right? Challenge it in court, and what the court needs to do is do what they've done to other people and say, we're not taking the case. The FCC is right, or the FCC should be right, but the FCC are a bunch of wimps. They destroyed radio in this country. And all of us broadcasters know that. They destroyed it. But let's look at this from a serious standpoint now. Well, as if I'm not serious. All right. Now, I mean, like really serious. Think about this. So you have billion-dollar corporations, right? That we lump into, like, we call it big tech, right? Or big pharma. Let's not even talk about the war profiteers. I mean, because that's so over the top and out of control that it's not even worth anything. And then let's not talk about the governments as international crime, organized crime syndicates, right? Pushing heroin, right? And profiting, $1 trillion and having partners like drug cartels and gangs, right? The stuff that's the unspeakable that everyone in the know knows. You guys at Langley know that, right? You know that, right? The DIA knows that. There's some people at Quantico know that, not all. Some people are just Boy Scouts trying to be, good cops. But there's a lot of people that know that, right? The way the world really works, right? It's the same with the phony politicians, the marionettes of the corporatocracy. People know what's going on. People in the media know what's going on. They just pretend they don't. There's a lot of people in the media that are like really having some like crises in their minds because they know the truth, but they've got, families and expensive houses in, Virginia, Maryland, DC, the greater DC area, and they can't afford to lose that, job, that $1 million salary or that $800,000, $600,000 or $800,000 income. So they're not going to speak out. See, the only people who ever spoke out about this stuff were, if you recall, years ago, I don't know, almost not as much as 10 years ago, but close to it, were a lot of the original people in social media and Facebook and stuff who came out on camera and basically said what these companies were up to, and they left. And the reason they did that is because they were founders and they had stock, and the stock went so high up that they were able to retire in their 20s or early 30s. So they had nothing to lose. But the reason nothing happens now and you don't hear anything is because they're holding people hostage. It's a form of extortion, really. If you think that's what the big tech companies are doing, that's what the corporatocracy does. It's in the media, it's in big tech, it's in big pharma, it's throughout the bureaucracies. What are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to stand up and do what's right. I'm going to expose this thing. And what happens? Right? Well, you end up like living in Russia like Snowden, or you end up in a jail cell rotting away like Assange. And I'm not defending either of those guys, because I'm just talking about even minor truths. Because basically, those things happened so long ago. Like I've said before, Snowden is clueless on what's going on right now at the NSA. The way things move and technology's changed since he's been over there. He may have exposed some things that were happening a decade ago. But we all knew that. That's the other funny thing that I laugh about that. It's like there was no great expose for the rest of us, anybody in the know, And Assange, well, he was just publishing, information given to him. So what? It was already released information, by somebody who grabbed that, the thumb drive, right? It wasn't through some kind of, we know that story too. People in the know, right? It's like you don't know what you don't know, and everything you know is wrong. Get those shirts from me, TonyCaravanLive.com. Go buy those shirts. By the way, they're very comfortable. The lowest end shirts, which I bought. I have hoodies and all that stuff. You can get that on anything you want. But I just wanted to get it to see how the printing is and all that stuff. Cause like I said before, I'm not monetized on this. I'm about to be kicked off probably. 3 strikes, you're out probably, or they put you, what do they call it? YouTube jail. You can't broadcast live for a week. Well, I'll keep broadcasting. I'll just broadcast on locals, right? And post videos elsewhere. I'll do Facebook live broadcast. People don't watch this stuff on YouTube anyway. YouTube's been basically throttling me from day one. So I don't care about that. They've got this crappy interface to begin with, like I've been saying for weeks now, if not months, right? So while they're drinking their little Starbucks coffee, right, in their little, on their little big tech campuses, right, little wimpy soy boys and girls with pink hair. Yeah, that's right. I'm taunting you because you're the Peter Pan culture, You went to these schools, you got some kind of goofy degree, it means nothing. You're going to be out of work in about 2 years, right? It's funny. It's almost like it's like people who I'll give you an odd example. Let's take the outlaw Josie Wales. All right. Anybody watching this? Yeah, I know I'm a character. I don't even really wear glasses in real life. It's like, this isn't even what I look like. I don't even know what I look like. I wear glasses because I've got all these stupid, tiny little things that I got to push. And they're so small that,
Toto? I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
So, if I don't have glasses on, I'd be putting them on and off, on and on and off, just to see all these little tiny little words on my various control center here. But these people, this Josie Wales, I used to hang out in this place. I was a member of the American Legion one time in this kind of semi-remote area, not where I am now. And they had a country club, and anybody who's watching this, they would know this, that they also had this bar. They call this like a stone house. That was like the bar. There was a country club golf course. So you could go there if you're into that scene. And I used to go there every now and then. But they had this like stone house. It was just like a kind of a smaller bar. It's like a pub. And there used to hang out with these guys in there. And there used to be this one woman that came in. And I remember one time when I first was there, one of the guys next to me said, Josie Wales. And I'm like, what's he talking about, Josie Wales? And I look over, and the lady across the bar, who was one of the regulars, she was a nice lady too. But she looked like that lady on, who lived on the other side of the ferry in Josie Wales. If you haven't seen the outlaw Josie Wales, you're lost. I mean, that's like part of that's pop culture, not politics, right? The outlaw Josie Wales. I got to get some cuts from that too. Add that in next time. Tattoo, if you're listening. Outlaw Josie Wales. But here's an example. Here's what's going on. Here's what this Peter Pan, soy boy, pink hair, social justice warriors, morons who work for Google, Alphabet, YouTube, right? Silicon Valley, Twitter, Facebook, and all these other, idiotic toy companies. All right. Apple, toy companies. All right. Think they know something. They don't know anything. They can't write code. I mean, everything they do is sloppy. It's cumbersome, right? It's ridiculous. It's stupid. It's dumb, right? For the year 2021, it's 20 years behind its time. Like I said, I was on the internet in the year 1985. Sending messages to Australia from the US. Had websites before people even knew what a frickin' website was. I was one of the first guys to make a graphic website. Most people had BBSs. I described this once before. It's like computer, it's like where you make an image out of like numbers and letters, right? On that white and green computer printout paper. That's what people like Bill Gates were doing, right? A moron. The guy is a genuine moron. People like ascribe him to be some kind of thing. He's just a scammer. His foundation's a scam. It's a money laundering operation, right? Yeah. That's a fact. Did you put that in your terms of service? Oh, don't say anything against Bill Gates. Why not? It's my opinion. He's a public figure. He's somebody who's trying to make things that will affect the planet. He wants to dim the sun, dim the planet, the sun from the planet. Who elected him Lord of the Earth? Lord of the Earth, right? I'm gonna dim the sun. Imagine it. Imagine, it's beyond arrogance. And imagine like the idea of that being reported rationally by like news media and actually getting these academics and stuff to go along. Yeah, I think they actually have tested it already. They're actually have done it, this kind of geoengineering. And they don't even know the results. They openly admit that. They say, well, we think it'll be similar to a super volcano going off and darkening the thing and therefore cooling the planet. That's a fact. That's not up for question. This is reality. All right? Excuse me. I'm a human being. This is honesty. This is live. But back to Josie Wales. So here's a little message to you little soy boys and you pink-haired social justice warriors working for these so-called Silicon Valley big tech companies and scattered around the United States on your other little campuses. All right? You Peter Pan culture. All right? Afraid of your own shadow. People afraid of words. He said that. So what? Get some thick skin. All right? We've all been called names. So what? I've been called names. I could rattle off a bunch of stuff. I grew up in a divided ethnic community, Irish and Italians and Polacks, right? Everybody had names for one another. And depending on whether you were outnumbered, which group was outnumbered at the time, they would basically call you every name in the book, right? Or you shun you or do whatever. Otherwise, one-on-one, you'd be best friends and you grew up and you hung out together. Many people ended up marrying, intermarrying between groups. Because that's what it was. It was childish stuff. And so, when I was a child, I acted like a child. But now I'm a man. I act like a man. You people need to grow up. For crying out loud.
I am your main connection to the switchboard of souls. I'm the magic man.
Get with it. But Josie Wales. That's a great movie. That's one of the few movies I actually have on DVD, even though my DVD player is out in my garage. So here's what these people are likened to. In Josie Wales and that woman that I referred to that this guy said looked like the woman from Josie Wales who was on the other side of this like kind of river thing where there was some squirrely guy who had this like you get your horse, your horse is on this like rafty type of thing and they would pull the string, the rope to guide you across this river. All right. And that was that guy's job. I mean, source of income, right? Pulling that thing. And so I'm going to give you people who work for Silicon Valley and big tech, people who are military contractors, and people who are hoping they're going to be career soldiers, hoping you're going to get a pension, right? If you're like in your late 20s or 30s and you're thinking you're going to like retire and get a military pension, I'm going to give you people a big eye-opener. First of all, watch the movie Josie Wales so you understand what I'm talking about. What you all are doing right now is you're like the guy who had this like raft sort of thing across this river. All right. All right. Fairly wide river. Too wide and too deep, just a bit too wide and a bit too deep for you to ride your horse, get on your horses and get across there or cross any other way. Right? So you had to get on this platform thing, and this guy had set up this big, thick rope thing to pull this raft thing across this river. All right. And what people who sitting there with their Starbucks coffee on these various campuses of Facebook, Twitter, Twatter, right? And and the various alphabet companies. And these people going to MIT now and go, I have an IQ of 187. Based on the IQ test today, based on the IQ test of the last 30 years that they've dumbed down, you're lucky if your IQ's 130. All right? I could remember a lot of stuff. I could read a book and have almost total recall. So what? It's called memorization. The human mind does that. There's savants that do that. All right? But that same person can't tie their shoe. In my mind, you're a moron. And I see these people, and that's the way I look at most of the Silicon Valley. But back to Josie Wales. Okay? Some people looking at me right now and go, I don't like that guy. He's got a weird attitude. No, it's just today's face. It's just today's face. Don't you get it? It's because
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
So I'm smiling through it because I don't like hold on. I'm like an angry person or anything, right? I'm the guy who says protest and all that kind of stuff is an exercise in futility. I don't believe in that stuff, right? Josie Wales. So what Silicon Valley and all these morons are doing right now, and yes, so what? It's a word, moron. It's a word. It's a word. Get over it. Pink hair, soy boy. They're phrases, words, right? That's how people talk. You should have heard the stuff when I was growing up, the words people would talk. Just ignored it, right? You ignored it. Became a stronger person. Get a thick skin. Get a life, right? Drink a 79-cent 2-liter soda instead of spending $6 on some phony thing. So you're like, look at me. I got the such and such roast. It's as bad as the Izod Lacoste set when I was growing up. Preppies, we used to call them. They used to be the funniest people on the planet. And the funniest thing is the first wave of people who are responsible for all the tech, which is me, my generation, responsible for all the jobs and everything you guys have, right? Because you came after we did it all, right? It wasn't the preppies who did that. It was us. It was the other guys. So this guy makes a living using this like bull rope, I think they used to call it. People didn't even know things anymore. Bull rope, real thick, thick rope. Excuse me. You may or may not have heard that, but that was like a hidden belch. I'm drinking a carbonated beverage at 5:56 a.m. in the morning, April 12th, year 2021. Year 2021. And we're dealing with these morons. So You load your couple of horses and the men on this like platformy, rafty type of thing. And it's got this, just little tight, some kind of rail around it. And there's this rope, bull rope, real thick rope. And you pull this across this fairly wide stretch of a river. Like I say, just a little too wide to make it a little too wide and a little too deep to make it without having something like this. And so here's what Silicon Valley is doing right now. And here's you people with your little jobs who think this is going to go on forever. This is like that guy who makes a living, and his assistant say, and a woman from the over the thing who probably might own the ferry, if you want to call it that, but it wasn't, whatever. This is like the people who are in charge of this bull rope pull across the river, working on building a bridge across that river. Okay? Now think about that. When the bridge is done, you're out of a job. All of these tech jobs, webmasters, website designs, these silly amateur hour interfaces like YouTube Studio. I've seen better stuff 25 years ago, right? That worked better and worked on machines that had like, megabytes of RAM instead of, 32 gigabytes of DRAM, right? Forget about quad or, double quad processors and all this kind of crazy stuff, right? The things we were doing 25 years ago were better than this. I was doing exactly what I'm doing right now on the internet in the 90s. Right? I think I showed a thing a couple of shows ago. I read it out. Like, I had the longest running lounge show on the internet, right? Documented. That was in the 90s. I was on the internet in 1985, man. By 1995, I already had websites, was building my own search engine. It was better than Google is today. Google challenged me, by blackballing me. That wasn't about, and at the time, it's like I said, I was a creative director of an advertising agency. I was doing this on the side. I wasn't about to embark in some kind of crazy lawsuit with them. Well, first of all, I didn't have the $40 million to go up against these people, nor the time or the will to do it. I still have that thing. It's still, still have it on a server. And I know people and friends of mine use it. And they religiously, like it's their morning go-to. That's their start screen. Because that's how good it is. It's better than Google. But anyway, the problem with these clowns who are working in Silicon Valley, what they don't know, and the people who are MIT who don't realize that, yeah, you got a high IQ because they dumbed down the IQ test 30 years ago. You're not smart, man. You're not even as smart as a savant. You think you are, but you aren't. And then the old timers who are intermixed within these groups, and there's a few people that have some, have half a brain. I messed with AI and all that stuff. I've told you those stories. I know, Elon Musk, is clueless on AI. When he comes out on stage and like warns about this stuff, he doesn't even know what AI is, right? The guy's this engineer, right? He doesn't understand AI. Look, you are basically making your own jobs obsolete. Within the next 6 months to 18 months, there will be 20 more million people unemployed. And the first to go are going to be the soy boys and the pink-haired social justice warriors working for these so-called big tech companies. That's what's going to happen. And all of this other nonsense, like the big pharma people, the truth about how to stay healthy and how to live healthy is all coming out within the next 6 to 18 months. All right. Let's see if this is Google telling me they took me off. No. It's something about, think about it, the danger of alcohol. I don't know. I'm thinking about drinking, getting drunk tomorrow. So much for that. And smoking a cigar. It's like that babe in my in the picture, with the cleavage and the cigarette. I have that in my bar in my other room. It says smoking permitted. So these morons are basically going to be obsolete, and they're clueless about it. It's like self-driving cars. Ultimately, well, first of all, we'll never take over. Okay. There'll be this like massive amount of accidents. Okay. And deaths. And that'll be very confusing. It'll be hidden very much by the media because of the pressure, the corporatocracy's lobbying power and control over the media. Remember, the media works for the corporatocracy. There is no government. There is only the corporatocracy. They pull the strings. That's the reality. This is the way things are. People don't like this kind of straight talk. It's straight talk. This is it. This is real stuff. I know. Why do I know? Because I've been everywhere. I've done all these things. See, there was a time when there were many people, journeymen type of people that just went around and did stuff. People today that, you say, oh, where you been? I can remember meeting, in fact, my first wife, when I met her, one of the questions was, she's, I don't know, one day we were looking and I had my passport because I had one of those wallets that had a passport in it, the square wallet. Like I still have it somewhere. I don't know where it is. But, it wasn't a flat wallet. When people carried wallets, but it was like size where there was a wallet, place to put your passport in. She goes, let me see where all you've been. She gave me her passport. I looked at all the places she'd been. That's what people used to do. People like us, people who traveled, accomplished things. She spoke like 3 languages. Yeah, I'll tell you, man, these people, they think they know something. They know, and they're out there and they're worried about is safe spaces and terms of service and believing what they see in memes and on their news app and Me little precious, my little precious. Oh, my little precious. I don't know what I would do without my apps and my texting and my emoji. I cancel my cell phone service. I keep a cell phone. I take pictures of my garden with it. You know, I have a voice over IP phone. I haven't said this in a while, so it bears repeating for new people. Do you ever hear that thing, Magic Jack? I'm not sponsored by it or anything. They don't advertise it, I don't think, anymore. But I don't know. I cut the cord. I don't have TV anymore. To hell with it. Why would I waste my money watching car commercials and pharmaceuticals, right? And things that, lawyers come out and say, oh, that, by the way, that thing you took for that rash, it kills people. So, yeah, I'm not going to watch that. But I get this thing. You just plug it in to your internet box, right? Whatever you got. And it costs $39.95, that stupid idiotic thing they've kept up since the 40s or whenever they first started to, advertising got really big, right? For $39.99. It's $40, man. Okay? Yeah. Hey, you could get this TV. It's 39 inches diagonally. Yeah, well, but how wide is it? I don't know. I mean, it's 39 diagonal. It's a big screen TV. Just tell me how wide it is. I had basic, geometry in high school. I know that the diagonal is wider than the width. You clown. $39.99. Kind of world we live in. Childish. The Peter Pan culture. People in their 30s living in their parents' house or dependent upon them. These you see these Antifa people and stuff getting caught and you hear the voice, over it. I'm going to tell, don't worry, I'll call my dad. What? When I was in my 30s, you didn't call your dad. I didn't call my dad for anything like that, If I did, he'd say, figure it out on your own. Though he was a good man, and if I was in a bind, he would have helped me out. A real bind, not some protest thing, which I never did. Excuse me. It's a real show, and it's really live. So, we live in this culture where the people in charge are Peter Pan culture. They're under a delusion that they have high IQs and stuff. They think they know stuff. They don't know. They're not traveled. They're not experienced. They haven't done anything. They've grown up in a dumbed down society and they think they're smarter than they are. They're not. They don't know what goes on in the world. Everything they get is from a device. The internet, like Wikipedia. Wikipedia is, I would say, is more lies than truth. In the early days of Wikipedia, I was sending them money all the time on a regular basis. I was a supporter of them until I started to see that they were being manipulated and revising things. Then it was like, and I would get the emails. And finally last year, I think they got the message. So they send me a thing and I sent one right back to, I don't know, the CEO or CFO, whatever it was. And I said, no, stop sending me, emails. I no longer supporting you. because I know what you're doing. I've seen it too many times. You're altering information. Revision is history. You're revising facts. All right. You're putting information that will feed a certain narrative that you want to get across. And that's the same with these terms of service. That's the same with what YouTube and Google and all these places do. Now, forget about Twitter and Facebook. Those are clown operations. Facebook is like, let's face that fact what Facebook is. Facebook is a place for families to show pictures of their vacations and their kids, right? And for high school people to connect or reconnect somehow, but they're not going to, most of them aren't, it's like most of them are never going to see each other. So it's like, what's the purpose? I sent a message. I don't know if I put this on YouTube. I don't know if she'll watch it or not, but there was a girl I knew who lived across the street from me growing up. I sent her a little note telling her once, I quit Facebook, but you never quit. All I had to do was re-log on. I hadn't been on Facebook in years, but I re-logged on because I was like posting these videos on Facebook. I was just using it as another outlet to, get the word out. And I think I sent her a message saying, hey, it's, I remember our childhood and, that was a beautiful thing, something like that, little message. That's what Facebook is. But I mean, that was it. I don't think she ever replied, and I didn't expect a reply. But that's that, and every time I've been on there, which is, in the old days, because I know, like I said, I don't really do it now. I just post these things. All I see, because there's still people there's still, I don't know how many people follow me and some family and ex-high school people or something like that. And it's all that kind of nonsense, and they're digging it, right? Because it's their little world, it's their photo albums, it's their home movies, right? See, if you're of a certain age, you know what I'm talking about. All Facebook has replaced are photo albums, home movies, right? And talking on the phone or going over to somebody's house and having coffee, tea, or smoking cigarettes and, shooting the shit, right? That's what it is. Family gatherings, when people used to get together and have family gatherings. That's what Facebook is, and, or you go way back and here's a slideshow from here's when we were in Mexico. There's that funny remember that here's that funny waiter. He was a guy who, not interested. But they are, and if it makes you happy, then do it. Like I said, I don't criticize people in that regard. If somebody takes offense to that, well, that's their problem, really. What they need to do is
I will have to remodulate our signal to match the network's interlink frequency.
Something like that. And Twitter is just a bunch of people arguing back and forth. Twitter can be described in two, there's two things about the way of viewing Twitter. It's the accumulation of followers, right? These trains they have. Let's see who could get the most followers who are of the exact same ideological beliefs, right? So it's, the preaching of the choir. And then that's like the big part of it. That's what everybody wants, to have 10,000, followers or whatever, And then it's these these bitter, violent, angry arguments back and forth over political issues. Unreasonable. And then they turn into either the profane or people just get so flustered that they just block the person. And that's Twitter. So it's like there's nothing there. There's nothing there. The memes, there's no news, there's no news on Facebook, there's no news on Twitter. So those things are like, they're clown operations. But people who use them, they use them for their own things. So people who need to have, dopamine hits and think they're accumulating these so-called followers or whatever, right? And need to argue, get involved in the cult of personality or the politics as pop culture. That's the Twitter sphere. And like I say, Facebook, home movies, family albums. Here's our summer vacation pictures. Look at what I had for lunch the other day. Right? Look at my kids. Look at this. Digital life, a digital replacement. There was a Four Seasons album or Four Seasons song called Imitation Life. There was a movie called that, Imitation of Life too, I think in the 60s maybe or 50s, I forget too. But I mean, that phrase is, it's an imitation of life. That's what this is. Things on here, the magic mirror, mirror, mirror on the wall, right? It's an imitation of life. There, look at the guy. I'm on there too. Look, I'm smiling here, but I'm there. I don't know what the heck I look like. It's an imitation of life. Turns you on, it's great, I mean, if that's your thing, go for it. But I'd much rather, in the year 2021, why don't we have this? I mean, that's what they copied those from. But they aren't smart enough, to take it to the next level. Hey, Google, where's your, tricorders? MIT, where's the tricorder? More people die of cancer every year. Okay. And I'm a cancer survivor. More people die of cancer every year than this thing, the unspeakable thing, has, is done in its duration, right? Because, that's over. And nearly as many people die of a heart attack and heart disease. Same way, in 1 year. So like in a decade, 1.2 million people, more or less, have died of heart disease and cancer. And do you see anything being done about that? You see these MIT people, these Ivy Leaguers and Silicon Valley doing anything about that? Do you see them coming up with some kind of shot or treatment for that? Huh? No. No. There's two reasons why. Okay. A, they're morons. Okay. All right. Which I can't believe they're all morons. Or B, which pretty much is Occam's razor answer. They're making too much money on those diseases. And now we got a new thing where testing is becoming, not like I said over the past several broadcasts, has become a $90 billion, perhaps $100 billion a year industry. And who knows what this thing is? That's could be $1 trillion industry. And so how do those people sleep at night? Well, I guess they're, they're mindless people. They're happy morons, happy mindless people. They just fall asleep. They don't even think about it. They have no empathy. They don't care. They have no feelings, right? They don't know the damage they're doing because they're conditioned, indoctrinated, propagandized. These people have literally have destroyed Western civilization and are basically have taken down the U.S. They're replacing the very people pulling the rope in Josie Wales to take the horses and men across that river are working for a company that's building a bridge to replace the need for them to be pulling that rope or making money on that raft, whatever barge, whatever it is to cross the river. They're making their own jobs obsolete, and they're too, brainwashed, right? Or what? I mean, they say, because these people come out, that's one of the things they love to say. They love to tell you how smart they are. I have an IQ of 181, 160. No, you don't, man. They dumbed down the IQ test 30 years ago. Yeah, I'm going to keep repeating that because it's a fact. It's like the SAT scores, right? I had nearly a perfect SAT score. I'm in Harvard. No, you didn't. Not if you would have taken the test when I took the test in the late 70s. And I had a high score. They dumb down those tests. It's like at school, the teachers just teach the students, prepare them for testing, prompt them. It's like prompting for testing. In years gone by, that would have been grounds for firing a teacher or a school like being like decommissioned or delicensed or whatever, or something. Now that's like common, that's SOP or standard operating procedure, right? That's all school is. Sit there with your cell phone. It's okay to text. Can't have that appendage taken away from those poor children. And we'll prepare you for these various tests so that we can get state and federal grants and make sure that the administrators get paid, because there's more administrators than there are teachers. But the teachers union won't stand up for the teachers, because in effect, what they're really standing up for is the administration. They won't stand up for the students or the teachers. It's like I say, they give them a pittance. But they're all losing that job of pulling that raft across the thing. They're building a bridge that's going to make their jobs obsolete. It's the same with the school systems, right? They don't see what's going on. They don't want people to go to schools anymore. They want them to be educated over Zoom, or whatever. They don't want you to go to doctor's office anymore. They want you to have the Zoom or whatever, right? diagnose over this. AI, algorithms. They're planning to depopulate us, man. It's like I say, it's the Occam's razor thing. You tell me otherwise, why would you do it? Why would they be making so many jobs obsolete? Oh, we're going to create a great infrastructure project. That's going to create millions and millions of jobs. No, it isn't. I showed you that before. I'll show you it again. I don't believe I deleted it yet, though I have to delete these things on a regular basis because my iPhone I don't have a service for, but I still keep. I use to take pictures. Okay? That's how you fix infrastructure. We talked about this yesterday, I know. But in case you didn't watch, that's called heavy equipment. Now, they look like toy trucks and small things there, okay? But they're gigantic, ginormous, as they say. Some of those machines are as big as a house, okay? They run on carbon-based fuels. Like I said, I'm going to jackhammer this into people's heads. Bears repeating all the time. They're going to create all kinds of jobs through it. We're going to rebuild the infrastructure and fix our bridges. Okay, how are you going to forge that steel, those steel girders? How are you going to, melt those, those steel mills? And use those cranes to lift those girders into place? And those concrete trucks, right? That are going to pour this tons and tons. Forget about a yard of concrete. We're talking about tons and tons of concrete for pylons and roadways. How are we going to spread that out? How are we going to, dig, remove rocks, put gravel in, truck this in, truck that out? Well, it's called heavy equipment. It's that kind of stuff, but bigger. And those steel mills, those factories that forge this stuff and all that heavy equipment, it's carbon-based. Doesn't run on batteries. Never will. Oh, maybe someday, 100 years from now, someone may create, like I said, maybe some kind of weird nuclear or some goofy thing. I doubt it, though. There are certain things that you just aren't going to be, like the flying cars and stuff, right? So we're going to create all these, and someone's saying, well, what's he talking about? So what? Yeah, so they're going to use this stuff. They're going to build this infrastructure. That will create a lot of jobs and a lot of good union jobs. Hey, man, you're not listening. The little puppet dementia guy who's proposed this stupid thing said that he just closed down a pipeline for carbon-based fuels and said he's going to get into something called the Green New Deal and abolish that and we want to phase out of carbon-based fuels. Well, the two can't go together, you moron. In other words, you can't create the biggest infrastructure project since, say, Eisenhower's National Highway System project or World War II tooling up, right? Manufacturing to do all this kind of stuff. And on the other hand, and say, we're going to phase out of diesel and petrol, right? When the very things you need to do that require it and will require it. And even if you believe in some kind of, magical breakthrough, in the coming decades, well, he said, we're going to do this within the next 8 years or so, Agenda 2030, the year 2030. Well, believe me, You're not replacing those dozers, dump trucks, excavators, cranes, and all that stuff. Not to mention, like I say, farm equipment and emergency vehicles. These people are freaking nuts. They don't listen to what they're saying. In other words, their very policies contradict themselves. And see, that's not even me being political. In other words, it's one or the other. You don't have a choice. Just be honest. If you want to fix the infrastructure, you've got to get that pipeline back in shape, because we're going to be importing oil within the next year. Because it's not even a matter of saying, well, okay, well, that's so what? So we're still phased out, but we're still going to build this infrastructure, but we're going to be phasing out of it. No, you don't understand. The type of project that was outlined, and I watched it, right? Heard the speech. The type of project that they were outlining is going to require the U.S. to use 3 or 4 times, quadruple probably, the amount of carbon-based fuels that we're currently using right now, which means we're going to have to be importing oil. That's how much is going to be necessary to do this grand infrastructure project and build these, replace these bridges and do all this stuff. Well, how the heck are you going to do that in a society where you're saying, well, at the same time, we're going to cease all, pipelines, and we're going to we need to, move things to, Hey, look, I sent a letter to Obama through the White House website, 8 years ago, whenever, or more than that, first year he was in office. You could go to the White House and you could actually send a message to the president. Now it goes to their aides and stuff, but I mean, if it's in there, it's in the West Wing, gets there. They do that, and especially early on, chances are somebody's looking at that. And I proposed to him back then. Okay, this would be 12 years ago. And I outlined it because I thought it out very well. Because remember, see that thing there? GreatSolarStuff.com. All right. I've been into solar. This thing is charged by solar. This thing next to it, over here, this little thing has a little mini solar panel on the top of it. I'm all for solar. I'm all for electric. I'm all for alternative stuff. I like that idea. Okay. All right. So I sent him a detailed email 12 years ago, approximately. And I said, look, you've got all these post offices all over the country that are basically like these fairly big box buildings, right? If you've ever seen a post office, even in some of the smaller boroughs, it's like a kind of a warehousey type of place, flat roofs or whatever. I said, why don't you put solar panels on all of the post offices? Okay. And those little Jeeps, because you see the fleet of postal trucks, they're basically either these Jeeps or these little minivan type of things, funky little minivans, ideal for solar. And I said, why don't you systematically make all those Jeeps and those little postal minivans, convert them to electric? I said, and so you can power all of the post offices, right? Remember, there's 500,000. Yesterday, I went through that number. According to the official statistics, there's 500,000 employees working for the Postal Service, approximately. All right. 500,000 people. All right. So imagine how many post offices there are. I don't know, tens of thousands or 10,000 some or something ridiculous like that. How many vehicles are there? Millions, right? Millions of vehicles. This would have been a boon for the economy. He was talking about he was going to do all this solar stuff, right? And, and crickets. Never did anything. Now, the current guys has alluded to the idea of maybe electrifying these vehicles. This is 12 years later now, but isn't even talking about my idea that was make all the post offices. See, the post office runs on a deficit. Okay. Well, this would have mean that the post offices would have been totally energy self-sufficient, right? Because they had these big roofs. So they could have put enough solar panels on there that would completely run the post office and the postal machinery. And at nighttime, because you're charging batteries during the day, all these postal vehicles would be plugged in and be charged. Anyway, I've got to take a short break, and I'm going to give you a little bit of something to listen to. I'll be right back. What do I look like with that glass? It's a great tune. That's none other than Bob Thompson. Bob Thompson. He sent me that that track when I used to do my lounge show in the 90s. I don't know if I'll get some kind of copyright thing on that because I believe it was he told me it was an unpublished piece. I was the king of swing, I was, that was me. I was the lounge guy. I don't know how many. I used to have like 20,000 people following my show.
Presenting the world's greatest everything.
Presenting the world's greatest everything. That was me. Anyway, I had to rush around, get some more ice cubes, do a few things, and I'm back. And in the grand tradition of Tony Caravan Live.
Why are you telling us this?
I'm going to continue with the show. Now, has this really been sinking in what I'm saying? This absurdity that's going on? The contradictions, right? The idea that these so-called people that are looked up to, the cult of personality, the self-admitted geniuses, right? What are they doing? What are they doing for civilization? Well, imagine their efforts if instead of wasting all this time, where's that thing? Did I put it back here? Yeah. What do you even do with it? I don't even know. Oh, it's up here. I think I put it on. I put the sheet up here. Our medical misinformation policy. How do they know? Right? Are they professionals in that industry? Since when? I thought they were in I thought they were in like the tech industry. Right? How do they know it's misinformation, medical misinformation? That's another thing. See, people don't go beyond this whole attention span of the goldfish. No one questions anything. Well, how do they know I'm not more of a medical professional than they are? Right? Which I think I am. Because I researched more about it than they did. All right? They're just basically making a statement. It's just like these other people. And it's like that Gates guy. Right? He has no PhD in anything. What does he know? He doesn't know anything. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And people are like, it's like these other people, they march across the media and through social media and all this stuff. And everybody's like, oh yeah, cult of personality. This politics of pop culture, man, they love it. What was I thinking the other day? Like pop culture, not like the mini skirt. I mean, that's pop culture, right? I was thinking about some other thing. I don't know. I can't think of it off the top of my head. That like people just don't understand what pop culture is anymore. Pop culture. It's not politics. How did politics become like pop culture, front and center of everything? Right? It's absurd. But it's beyond absurd. And when you use the word absurd, like these words have been so overused that they no longer carry any weight, right? I have an IQ of 167, 180. I'm at MIT. Okay, well, tell me the progress on your cure for cancer or heart disease. Why is the FDA still approving things that these law firms are proving in court that cause damage to people and are killing people? And why should I trust them? How's that medical misinformation when it's on TV right now? Okay, Mr. Monitor. See, there's a 1 on my thing. It's a YouTube because when this ends, there'll be a 0. It'll say view 0. Right. So that 1 is the monitor. It's either an algorithmic monitor, or who knows? Maybe now that they're going after me, they've assigned somebody. Right. Listen to that guy. He's dangerous. That line from Jesus Christ Superstar, the movie. He's dangerous. Crucify him. He needs to be crucified. The chair fell down again. For the umpteenth time. Diet Dr. Bob. This is not sponsored by Diet Dr. Bob, but I do recommend it. If you are a cola drinker, I think the idea is it's supposed to be a knockoff of Dr. Pepper or something like that. Let's see. It contains caffeine. That's why we're drinking it. Carbonated water, caramel color, natural and artificial flavors, aspartame, phosphoric acid, potassium benzoate, preservative, caffeine. 0 calories. Of course, to the human body, those things like aspartame and all those stuff, they fool the body that it's a sugar anyway, so you end up gaining weight. Or you won't lose weight. So the problem with Diet Colas is, look into that. You can go down that rabbit hole yourself. I'm not a doctor and I don't profess to be. All right. And I say in every one of my videos, which is why that thing annoyed me that I got from them, is that I always tell people, don't take my word for it. Don't take anybody's word for it. Go check 7 sources. So how could I be giving misinformation out? You can have an opinion on something. Since when can't you have an opinion? All right? You can't have an opinion. Did I say good morning? No, I didn't. I'm sorry. I don't want to get on a rant to that point where it annoys some people.
I fear no evil.
But I still
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
And I still think.
I think all 3 of you popped your stoppers.
So, yeah, an opinion, right? It's like you have op-eds in a newspaper. There's still, even on many of the networks, you have, these stations, they have like people that are, give a alternative or a differing viewpoint, right? So why can't I have an opinion that differs from the ownership of this company? Because that's what they're really saying. Because they're not medical professionals. So they can't say it's medical misinformation, right? How would they know, right? How do they know? Oh, well, we saw a meme and, we saw, it's like, I don't think so, man. I watch speeches, and press releases I always go to the source. I'm not a social media person. I told you I quit all those things. I just post things on there to spread my videos out. Somebody told me the other day, hey, I think somebody commented on one of your videos on Facebook. It's like, I didn't really look at it. I just push the button, share to. Okay. I'll have to go check to see if somebody's saying something. Probably somebody reported me or something weird like that. He said, so what? Maybe he knows something you don't know. Maybe he watched firsthand the WHO press conference, and he was just basically saying what he heard them say. How could that be misinformation? Right? How could it be misinformation if you're quoting something? And how dare you, like that idiotic kid, fake kid, right? Actress, how dare you says, how dare they, right? Pretend I've said something other than what I actually heard from the source. Right? And even if I didn't, I would have a differing opinion. So what? So what? It's an opinion piece. It's an op-ed, right? The networks do it, right? I see on YouTube, what's that show, Gutfield or something weird like that on Fox? Or even like CNN or MSNBC, occasionally they'll, they don't do it often, but they'll have somebody on, they usually cut them off the moment they say something that differs from what, their dogma is. But they all do it, right? They bring on a guest, like that Mike Wallace guy. He may lampoon somebody, but at least they bring on somebody who has a different opinion, right? So how does YouTube, Google, Alphabet get off with saying that if you can't have an opinion that that you're not allowed to have an op-ed like a newspaper? So yeah, the thing is, it's pretty crazy. And when you're doing something live like this, you're just it's just a flow of consciousness. And like I said, I don't put any value in the internet whatsoever as like a truth, and the final end all source for information. It's a go-to source for things like a date of something, like, or numbers, like I said before, how many postal workers are there? Well, you can go there and say, okay, according the official number is 500,000 people approximately work for the post office. Yeah, the internet's great for that. But, anyone who's been like, feeling under the weather or something like that, and they go to like WebMD and these other sites, you go to 5 different sites and they'll basically tell you anything from the fact is that you're either dying or, you need to, take an aspirin and a glass of water, or you need to eat more broccoli. So the internet, I don't trust the internet for anything that's, has to do with my life. But the same token, these platforms like YouTube, have no right to tell me that I'm giving misinformation out when I may have an opinion on something. It's just an opinion. It's not misinformation, especially when I preface it or follow it up by saying, go research for yourself. And that my trademark line is, don't go to one source or 2 sources, go to 7. And I stand by that because I do that. I learned that from, health issues, when I would look for like, what's a good what's a list of good anti-inflammatory foods, that type of stuff. I've researched stuff like that because I grow things in my garden and I want to be healthy. But I'll put that in a search engine and it's, and I'll see, here's a list of like 10 anti-inflammatory foods. But then I'll go to another, then I'll go back to the page and I'll go to another one and there'll be like something else there. And one of the other things they listed wasn't there. Then I'll go to a third site and it might be 12 foods and it's missing a couple of and I'm like, so my idea is that whenever I go on the internet and I'm searching for something, I'll actually have a piece of paper down below and I'll look and see what's the consensus kind of thing. So if everyone's saying, well, garlic, turmeric, broccoli, but but some people aren't listing certain other things, like some kind of nuts or whatever, and I'm just talking about this now. And that's what you have to do. And it would be the same with anything political or, a current event or anything like that. But to give me, for someone who just entered the chat room, you might have missed this earlier. I got this, potential warning strike because I spoke about, the thing, the shot in the arm thing, apparently in a video I'd made a month ago, which I scanned it this morning, and quite frankly, I didn't see anything of that kind in there. But the idea is that, so what, I would have an opinion. What does it matter? It's just an opinion. It's op-ed, right? It's no different than somebody on a newspaper or television station saying something. It's kind of crazy. But it drives you nuts, and and that's why,
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Because that's where I am right now. And if this video gets a strike or something like that, I mean, that's it. I'll just do the locals thing. I'll go back to producing my own videos, from a production standpoint as a final product, and then uploading that to other sources direct. The only reason I like this live YouTube live is because it's honest. See, that's the whole idea. It's straightforward and honest what you see. If I pick up the handkerchief to watch, because I've got, coffee or soda on my mustache, I'm not hiding it. It's reality. If I slip up, make a word, I can't think of something, or I'll go and I'll look up something quick because I don't know it. It's like real time. There's no pretension here. You're watching me live. It's not like a TV show, scripted, makeup people, right? Audio, I've got, I have my own audio things.
I think all three of yous popped your stoppers.
So it's live. I have to push that button. It's not added later on. If I want to show you something like this YouTube ridiculous notice, I have to hold it up to the camera. Now, if I were producing this video the way I've done other videos, then that would have just appeared on the, I could split the screen and it would just appear on the screen. But this is honesty. When I tested this thing out, this solar chargeable power pack, did it live, not like these guys who have these things, unboxings and product things. Well, I did it live for you. I plugged something into it, kept it on while we were doing the show. Let's see how much power it uses. Does this thing really work? It's the same with this thing here. This solar thing. Let's see.
Partly sunny with a 40% chance.
Does the NOAA radio really work? I took it out my backyard. Does it really solar charge itself? I do that stuff in real time. But, if they're going to play games with me, let them, then to hell with them. So I don't know. I really don't know. It's it's very frustrating in one way, but in another way, it's almost liberating. When you say, well, what do you mean liberating? Well, because it makes me think that, maybe 60 some shows, I've done 60 of these consecutively live every morning. And maybe it's time that I will go back to just producing shorter videos and where I have put up the things. But I think that's a loss for the audience. And it's just too bad overall for the sake of for the state of freedom of speech in America. The idea that you have to like, people have a fear of words. You have to, there's something called wrong speak. That kind of thing. Doesn't make any sense, that people are putting up with this, other than the fact that I mentioned earlier. They're afraid of losing their job. But that's the exact reason. See, that's the whole thing. That's the exact reason why I scaled down and why I say I'm living below the poverty line. All right. And my mortgage, taxes, and insurance are less than $200 a month. And I intentionally did this. I didn't have to. Yeah. I had an opportunity last year when they were putting this, because this unemployment thing, people knew that this was going to, last for like over a year and a half. I had a chance that because I had been on unemployment prior, and I had an opportunity to go back to work for several weeks, in which case I could have, and then been laid off, and I could have been sitting around collecting unemployment on top, But I said, no, I don't want to do that. I said there's certain, the freedom of living below the poverty line, there are benefits to it. Because I'm free. You see? I don't need to rely on a certain level of income to exist. And I basically own this house. I mean, it's mortgage, but it's a $200 a month mortgage, taxes, and insurance. So think about it. I cut the cord to my TV, so I don't have that bill. I don't know if I finished the explanation before about that Magic Jack. It's $39 a year. All right. $40, whatever, plus tax, the $39.99. I got off on that tangent, how I hate that 99 thing. I got on a tangent. But to finish that, because I don't like to leave you hanging. Yeah, it's roughly $40 a year for me to have phone service in my house. And I have an app that I was able to put on my old iPhone, okay? That basically, let's see if we can see it there. It's a dialer. I have a number, and I can get texts if I wanted to. I'm not a big text person. Never like that. Well, So I pay $40 a year for phone. My mortgage, taxes, and insurance are $200. I cut the cord so I don't use, I don't have a monthly TV bill. I grow food in my backyard. All right. And I started to experimented this year in my back porch closet, and it's an out of control thing. It's out of control. I started tomato plants like in January or something in there. And it's like, it's a viney mess. It's out of control. It was an experiment to see if it could be done. And I should have been like pruning them and doing all this stuff, but I let it get out of control. It's just, it's out of control. Answer, it's doable year-round growing. And I grow a lot of food outside, but I'll be able to, now that I've proven it this year, I'll be growing like lettuce, tomatoes, and, salad stuff, basic survival, food that I can eat, type of food I eat, stuff you make soups with. I've got potatoes and radishes and carrots growing out back. I'm going to grow squash again this year, zucchini and stuff like that. That stuff lasts through the winter. So, you grow, you have a garden, you grow your food, you pay $40 a year for your phone service, only $200 a month to have your house, which is halfway paid off completely, almost. And then it's a few utility bills here and there. And if you're under the poverty line, you see, you qualify for basically, certain discounts, right? Because you make less than this, they don't, you qualify for certain discounts, certain things. So, yeah. And I don't mind that. I worked my whole life. I paid into the system more than most because I lived well and I was an earner. But I've got everything I need. And I got my house and I could play loud music. I could do whatever I want to. I could drill a hole in the wall if I want to. I don't care. But the reason why, I mean, the whole purpose of me talking about my situation is to give an example is it's the exact opposite of the people who work, the news readers and the politicians and the people who work for these big tech and big pharma companies. They've got families and big houses, high rents and high mortgages and ridiculously high expenses. So they don't want to come out and say, hey, that guy, that Tony Caravan Live guy, let's come to his defense, or he's right about that, because they can't afford to lose. They don't want to lose their $120,000 a year job, or even their $60,000, $80,000 a year job, let alone the guys making $500,000 or $1.2 million a year. I mean, people make a lot of money now. You'd be surprised. And it's like they don't want to give up that, house with the 2-car garage, hubby and the wife both have an SUV, So that's the power. That's what they hold over people. That's, and that's what I'm telling you. The government is a corporatocracy. At one time, it wasn't. At one time it was this. It was just a tax farm. I mean, they always looked at us as cattle. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, that's what we are. And then we were on their consumer farm for a while. But they didn't care too much about the consumer farm because as the population increased by like 120 million since like the 70s over the past 50 years or so, there were so many people that randomly the volume of product would sell. You see, I was in the advertising business, right? And I used to tell people this sometimes, in confidence, and I would say to people, I go, if somebody was on a real low budget, I'd say, don't really worry about it. Here, I'll show you where to advertise, what to do. You'll do okay. You just gotta, we just gotta get a little name recognition or a little brand recognition out there in some key places, but you don't need a big budget, because there are just so many people. It's like the car I talk about, TV is just all they do is selling used cars and pharmaceuticals. But the idea is that people are going to buy a car anyway. And that's just a scheme by salespeople that they've been doing for so many years, that they've got these people thinking that they need to spend, all this money buying advertised television, radio, and print advertising to sell cars. They don't really have to. They're spending way too much money. Their sales wouldn't go down if they stopped. Because there's so much other exposure to vehicles. A lot of people don't understand like product placement in television shows and movies and all that stuff. Now, if you're opening a new restaurant in some town, yeah, you got to advertise it because nobody's going to know you're there. But anyway, generally speaking, I guess the bottom line is that these big tech companies, these big pharma companies, this corporatocracy in general can be doing so much more for humanity, for the quality of life of individuals. But instead, they've chosen to play social justice warrior in control of speech, and saying this is wrong speech, this is right speech, and no op-eds allowed. But how could it be an op-ed unless they truly are not a platform, but media and editorial? You see? They contradict themselves, but see, no lawyer even wants to go up against them because they don't want to have the corporatocracy who's pulling the strings come down on them so that their law firm will lose clients. So in other words, it's blackmail, it's extortion, right? And that's why I'm trying to tell you, governments have become, it's an organized crime syndicate. And that's what the corporatocracy is. That whole group of big pharma, big ag, big tech / big data, the war profiteers, the Fed, right? It's an organized crime syndicate that uses extortion, right? It's a protection racket for some people, right? But that's what they are. And they don't care about anybody. You're just cattle to them. And they're hypocrites. Because how could you be in violation or get misinformation on by giving an opposite position, an op-ed, without logically there is no other answer to it. And you can't question this to them because they just, there's no questioning. It's right. All you can do is type a reply, or, you could say, well, I challenge something, but they'll just say, no, there's no one there to talk to. But they're admitting it on that piece of paper that I got. Well, it wasn't a piece of paper. It was a email, but I printed it out. Because in other words, if an op-ed, if they're saying you can't have a differing opinion, it's a differing opinion to what? And they're saying to these organizations. No, I was basically parroting what I actually saw in a press conference. So no, what you're really saying is I have a differing opinion than you do. And that you never watched the press conference. You aren't paying attention to the original source. You're basically watching whatever comes on the little precious. You see? Oh, on my news app, right? ABC News or CNN or Fox said, well, what are they? That's second, third hand, fourth hand. Who knows? They're reporting stuff that's viral. They said, the mainstream legacy media said that there was no such thing as the Great Reset, right? From the World Economic Forum last September or so. Except if you went to the World Economic Forum's website, you saw the Great Reset in big bold letters, and this guy Klaus in a video explaining what exactly it was. They said that was a conspiracy theory. I'm sure people got blocked in the early days for actually saying that. Because these people who work for these tech companies, they don't know. They never even bothered to check to see if there was a thing called the World Economic Forum. They don't know about the Davos set. These are kids drinking, Starbucks coffee, worrying about a safe space, afraid of somebody saying a name or a word. Imagine that. Childish, a Peter Pan culture. Believing something, they live by their smartphone. They don't know. They've never traveled the world like I have. They've never been a player, right? Experienced anything. I don't know if you can hear this or not. Yeah. I'm on the main strip, but yeah, this neighborhood, you hear that stuff a lot. So anyway,
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
But that said,
Good morning.
Thanks for watching. We'll see what happens with this video. And good luck, but if I'm not on YouTube anymore, I'll be on TonyCaravan.locals.com, and I'll be doing some other alternative. I have TonyCaravanLive.com as well, rockflux.com. I'm all over the place. Like I said, I've been doing this stuff since 1985. I was doing video and vlogging before YouTube was a glimmer in the eye of these people. All right. I was podcasting before there was an iPod. All right. I had the longest running radio show, webcasting show on the internet by according to several magazines. And that was by the end of the 90s, before even 2000. So I don't need these clowns. All right. I know all kinds of things to do. All right. And I shall. So seek me out. If they try to block me, I'll be around. I'm not stopping. Take care. Have a great week. And as always, seek the truth, tell the truth, and try to simplify your life so that you aren't being extorted by this, organized crime syndicate that they call, that's the former United States of America, or Western civilization once was. Cheers, my friend.